Schistosomiasis, the deadliest neglected tropical disease, or the worst disease that you never heard of. Schistosomiasis, this is the male and female worm magnified. They mate for life and can live for decades in the human body. Schistosomiasis is a parasitic worm that is spread to humans through fresh water. It may be news to us, but it has been a scourge of the human race for a long time. Eggs of the parasite have been found in Egyptian mummies as old as 5,000 years. Schistosomiasis is also known as bilharzia or bilharziosis in many countries, after German physician Theodor Bilharz, who first described the cause of urinary schistosomiasis in 1851. MAMA has been treating intestinal parasites since 1987. When we gave our trainings on treating parasites over the years, we have always focused on the more familiar soil-transmitted helminths. That is because that is a bigger problem in the part of the world that we started working in, which was Central America. Ascaris, hookworm, whipworm. We've always incorporated the WHO PowerPoint into our module on deworming. But when we got to the section talking about praziquantel, we mentioned it. We mentioned that you need a pole and a weighing scale if you're dosing for schistosomiasis. Follow the Ministry of instructions. We got to the slides on schistosomiasis. We gave it just passing attention. We would say if praziquantel is distributed, this is the equipment you need. Follow the Ministry of Health, but into much depth because it wasn't in the area that we were working. But in Africa and Asia, schistosomiasis rivals malaria for a title of the worst neglected tropical disease. Malaria is more common, schistosomiasis is more deadly. But until we started working in Africa, we never gave this very serious parasite the attention and respect that it deserves. But people in the countryside who are living with this disease are very well aware of the ways that they're becoming infected, how they're suffering and dying as a result of contracting schistosomiasis. And they said, if you have this medicine, we will take it right now. We felt early on that our job was going to be to teach people about schistosomiasis and motivate them to take the medication. And this is not really so much of a challenge as just organizing the ways to get this to the people who need it. Schistosomiasis often co-infects the same populations as the intestinal parasites that we are much more familiar with, Ascaris, hookworm, and Trichuris. The distribution of schistosomiasis, you can see pretty large area in Brazil and South America, not so much in the rest of most of Central and South America, but Africa and Asia are highly endemically infected. And this follows about the same map as the soil-transmitted helminth. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 700 million people around the world are at risk of contracting schistosomiasis, and some 240 million are infected by the parasitic disease. What harm does this creature cause? Well, look at the slide. It causes intestinal and urogenital disease. Female genital schistosomiasis is a major problem, underreported, under-talked about, but it is a huge problem in the areas of the world that women are exposed to schistosomiasis. It is a major risk factor for HIV infection because there is chronic urogenital irritation, and this is ripe for the spread of the HIV virus. Prevention and control, the preventive chemotherapy, in other words, mass drug administration of praziquantel, snail control, because snail is an obligate parasite, environmental management, keeping people out of the water, keeping the urine and feces, human waste, out of the water. Also, the infrastructure improvement, health education, social mobilization, sanitation, access to safe water, And all of the 5 forms of schistosomiasis are treatable with the praziquantel. In the center of this page, there is a picture of the um, life cycle. It is human waste. The eggs are either urinated or defecated into the water, where they become the muricidia, the ciliated body. They find a snail. They go through 2 asexual reproductive cycles in the snail. They burst out, usually when the water is warm. Early in the morning when the water is still cool, you are less likely to become infected with schistosomiasis, but when the water starts to warm up and people start going into the water to swim or do their work, that is when the hungry cercaria are looking for a human host. They penetrate the skin, and the life cycle starts all over again. Besides the diseases we just talked about, cervical cancer, bladder cancer, cirrhosis, pulmonary hypertension, chronic genital pain and dysfunction, blood in the urine, abdominal pain, diarrhea, kidney damage, infertility, anemia, fatigue. Did I mention, yes, pulmonary hypertension, and the eggs are really causing the problem more than the larva. The eggs can also get into the bloodstream, not just go to the lungs causing hypertension, the liver causing cirrhosis, but they can also, imagine a person with a PFO, a persistent foramen ovale. The blood from the right side of the body goes to the left side of the heart and is distributed to the brain, to spinal cord, causes embolic phenomenon in the brain, leading to strokes, sometimes spinal cord damage with paralysis. These are not the most common side effects, but problem. The bloated belly. Now, children who are malnourished and who have intestinal parasites will tend to have an even more pronounced bloated belly. So the cause of that is multifactorial. It can be fatty liver, muscle weakness, edema, parasites, malnutrition. And this is a Carter Center photo showing blood in the urine in children. This would be the hematobium of schistosomiasis. And this is a schistosomiasis control initiative picture of school deworming. This is a USAID photo, so there's a lot of big players. There's been a lot of donated praziquantel from large pharmaceutical companies like Merck. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been behind working to eradicate schistosomiasis. But there's a lot of work to be done, and sometimes there's a mismatch between the efforts on the ground and the availability of the medicine. It's not always a perfect match. There's need for more planning and organization. WHO resolution in 2001 encouraged the world to unite to work on schistosomiasis and soil transmitted helminths. So it's not a new idea to work on these problems. This was an advocacy document, WHA 54.19. Now, a little story from the ground. This is a picture of walking down to Lake Victoria. Beautiful, picturesque, but a dangerous place to work. These fishermen took us out in their boat to demonstrate their fishing techniques. All the time we talked about schistosomiasis. They were highly aware of it. They knew that having their feet in the water all day long was a risk factor for this terrible disease that they were very familiar with. They knew that the middle-aged fishermen started to develop illness, cirrhosis. They didn't always know exactly what they died from, but they were dying and they knew it. Then also this is a risk for the children in the same area who are spending time in the water. You can't keep kids out of the water on a hot summer day. So the phrase that we heard, if you have the medicine now, we'll take it. We know the risks of schistosomiasis, but we can't stay out of the water. Now, what follows is an interesting video